It was a valiant effort. Really liking this tiller. There's always that moment of truth when it comes to takedown bows, and having a sleeve that is actually functional. You know, you get to this point, you worry about potentially having something go wrong with your tenon or gluing it permanently in place. But in this instance, the glue up went perfect. It had, like, I want to say 3.5 inches of reflex or something like that. Putting in some deflex in there gives it about 1 inch now of total reflex. So net reflex about 1 inch right here. I got this guy shaped out the way I want. You can see that nice reflex and deflex shape to it. The takedown feature works very well. So I'm pleased with that. Went ahead and gave it kind of the shape I'm wanting in the grip there. You know, something very, very simple. And I want this to be just basically a very simple grip. My intention, anyway, is to make this a hunting bow and potentially go with me this fall on my hunting trip. So, as you can see, or up to this point, I have shaved down just the edges of the belly of the limbs here so that I can get started on some faceted tillering. I've also put in some string knocks so that we can start testing the bend on her. So I love seeing a deflexed and reflexed bow come to shape. You can probably see that basically these limbs look straight or flat, and they're coming right out of the riser like that. No major, we're not hinging at our edges here. It's just straight and ready to be strung. That's looking really good for starters. And the amount of force that it's taking me to get down to where it's at right now is not an obscene amount of force. So I think that as far as like weight management is concerned, we're going to be pretty close to where we want to be, due in large part to the fact that we introduced some deflex into these limbs. Just up to a real low brace height here, like 4 inches. Already getting some good positive tiller. Gosh, and you can hear this. It's a pretty high-pitched twang, which suggests that this guy's pretty heavy weight. Yeah, and I think I discerned just an itty-bitty creak in that grip, but we're going to hear some of that as we go along regardless. There was another one. We're going to work up the brace height just a little bit more and actually start exercising this bow on the tillering tree itself. All right, got this up to a respectable string height. It is showing at about 5.5 inches. I have already measured out our gaps on top and bottom limb, and we're showing about a 1/16 of an inch of positive tiller. Gave it just a couple of tugs out there on the tillering tree, and it was reading 30 pounds at 20, or 30 pounds at 14 inches. So we are definitely in that hunting weight range, and at this point, guys, I think we know that we're going to get a good bow out of this blank, and that the sleeve is going to hang on in its current state. So this bow has been sitting here like this now for half an hour, just sweating out its initial stringing. And it looks like, as far as positive tiller is concerned, we're still right there at about 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to unstring this guy. I would say showing probably 5/8 of an inch of reflex there. When we got started, it was 1 inch, but that is straight out of being strung up. So we're going to let it relax here for a little while. I have some marks going on right here. I want to try and get this hard corner, these hard corners of the backing trimmed down, so that I don't run into any issues with any kind of like wanting to lift a splinter or anything like that. Any hard corner, guys, presents that opportunity. So we're gonna take those off. Okay, so to take just a smidgen of weight off of the bow as it stands right now, I've taken and just drawn some lines just inside these edges of the limbs, and we are going to take our limbs down on the sides to meet those, to match up to those lines right there, and take some weight off of this bow. So we are managing our weight on the edges here, and then managing our tiller on the belly. Full disclosure here, guys, I ran into some pretty major issues with this bow, not twisting per se, but the limbs being terribly out of alignment. Blame it on the glue up of the grip, or blame it on the stave itself. Whatever we want to blame it on, it just is what it is. So I've done a lot of mitigating to that end. So a lot of taking off on like center portions of the limb here, and then outer edges of the limb here, to kind of bring everything into alignment on both sides. And really what was happening was the string was laying off the grip entirely. Like I kinked the glue up. But I'm happy to report that we are back into alignment at this point, and really all that's left to do is, the way the grip is lined up here, it's like kinked off to the edge here. So we're going to be taking off, when we get to the belly side of the grip, it's going to take more off of the one side here to kind of bring everything back into alignment. Just having done all the work on the width of the limbs to bring them into, to get them straightened out, really get them into alignment, has cost me some weight on the draw weight. So it's not a significant amount. So I'm still going to get a hunting weight bow out of this. At this point, I'm going to take off the nodes, which is what I'm doing currently. It's just knocking down these sharp peaks of the nodes on the bamboo, so that I don't lift any splinters there. And then we'll continue tillering from that point. This is me attempting to get this bow tillered before I ran out of light. It was a valiant effort, guys, but unfortunately, I just was not able to beat the sun down the horizon there. And
we'll go over the processes that you're seeing here a little more in this video. Exercising the limbs, putting the bow on the tillering stick, using the tillering gizmo to figure out where we need to do the wood removal. My intent is to always do this in one shot. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to, and I had to push this process into another day.
So we're going to start today by checking in on where we're at with actual draw weight and length here. And this is really taking the bow from cold. I know we were drawing to 24 inches. So. Sitting right at like 48 pounds at about 24 inches here. 25 inches, well, right at about 50 pounds. This is good news. Like, we're right there, moving into that, 55 plus range at 28. It's going to make a good hunting weight bow. And for as long as the limbs are bending well, just going to keep moving down the tillering tree here. At 26 inches, she's at 53 pounds. It's a 3-pound pickup on 1 inch. Now it's showing about 52 now. A little bit of compression taking place there. So what we're going to do is take this in. We're going to see what kind of reflex we're maintaining. Last check we're at about 1/2 inch. We'll check the reflex, and then we'll do a couple tiller checks as well. We are still holding some reflex straight out of unstringing. But it is not much. We're talking like a quarter inch tops. And we were drawing, what, like 52 pounds at 26 inches. So you can figure probably another 3 pounds net to 28. After we sand and do some other things to this bow. So we are right there at that 55 pounds at 28 inches. Depending on the compression that it takes in those last couple inches of draw. I'm seeing some chatter left by my scraper here. I've got to get, this has got to be dealt with here. Can you see it there? It's just chatter. It's blade chatter. Right there. There, and I do not want that to turn into anything in the way of crystals. You run that very distinct possibility when you allow your steel tools, your bladed tools, to washboard on your belly. And that's why it's very important when you are addressing them that you address them at angles, opposing angles like this as you go along the belly. You don't want to go necessarily straight like this and straight like this, because once you start that washboard or that wavy appearance, it just exacerbates it. It just makes it worse. Okay, truthfully, guys, I'm surprised that having pulled it to 26 inches, that did not have disastrous results, quite honestly. We're going to fix that, and then we're going to have to do whatever we got to do with the tiller once that's out of there. As scary as it is to find that, Not that difficult to correct. And then that's the reason why every time I do work with a bladed tool, right, like this, I always come back with my handy file to smooth everything out. And I didn't get this section smoothed out very well, obviously. All right, it's gone. It was right in here. So we got a nice clean grain now in there. I'm going to take it back out to the tillering tree, and I am going to pull it to 26 inches, probably 10 times or so, maybe even 20, just to see what effect that wood removal had. And then we're going to come in here and check the tiller on it. All right. So we're going to get this onto the tillering stick. Run it down here. I'm going to pull it to 20 inches. It's a pretty good distance for checking our tiller. Got my tillering gizmo, and I'm gonna run it down the limbs here. That one barely touched. And that one barely touched on this one. So I don't know if you can see in the screen, it touched here on this far limb and here. So that's like where it's straightening out, is like within the last 6 inches of the tips. I'm not worried about straight limbs there. We're going to advance our pencil just a little bit. All right, now I got a couple marks up here. That's good. And doesn't look like I got anything on the upper limb here. Hard to say for certain. Take it out and we'll see what it gave us. So you can see I put squiggly lines over the pencil that was left by the tillering gizmo, and this is my lower limb. And I really feel like my mess was right in this area here. So you can see that it left me a low spot, or a higher bending spot, let's say. Okay, a hinge type deal. Upper limb only has this little spot right here, and then all the way out to the very tip of everything. Right there. Not going to do anything with that. Same as like not going to do much with this either. Like we want the stiff outer limbs, but this definitely needs to be contended with, as well as this. Now remember that the pencil was set to the same height for both limbs. Okay, so what this is trying to do is make them even. We might have to do a little more removal across the entire upper limb to keep that positive tiller, but I don't think we will. We'll just work on getting the tiller on this side right, and then check it out there on the tillering tree again. Pulled this guy out to 27 inches out there. I want to say probably 15 times. After I had pulled it to 26 several times. The curvature on the limbs is actually looking really, really good. When we get to the part where we're tillering with a gizmo like this, it is to get the very, very fine tuning done. Very fine tuning. I have not adjusted the tillering gizmo from the last time that I used it. Getting just a little bit right here on what is the lower limb. and like right here on the upper limb. So again, not going to mess with this. Like, I don't need any more bend right here. That's not where we're bending. Looks like I need to take just a little bit here off on this outer third of the lower limb. And that's going to be, I think that's going to be it, guys. I'm not going to do any more refinements beyond this right here. We're going to draw her out at this point. We're just going to take her and exercise her until she hits 28. At 27, it's 54 pounds and a really nice circular tiller. Really liking this tiller. And I am right now pulling to 28 inches, just repeatedly. At 28 inches, 56 pounds. And that's a short 28. Let's see here, full 28, 57 pounds. Our positive tiller is almost nil. So I am going to take my handy file and just gently go over this top limb. You can see how I'm raising just a little bit of dust on here. That's all I want to do, just a little bit. Guys, another visit to the tillering tree gave me about 1/16 of an inch of positive tiller. I'm going to leave it like that for right now because I really feel like this top limb will probably compress a little bit more and give me a little better positive tiller once we start shooting it. All right, shooting in a bow, the way that you plan on shooting it tends to stress the limbs a little differently, and so hopefully we'll see that positive tiller develop. Now, I have not had this bow unstrung this whole time, so just been tillering away, and at first view it almost looks like I'm taking some string follow, and no string follow, but in fact straight, like dead on flat. After giving this bow about 20 minutes to relax, she is showing a good, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch of reflex. And that doesn't include the wraps, which take up about another 1/4 of an inch. So probably a good 1/2 inch of reflex remaining in this bow from when we started tillering it. She finished out at about 56 pounds at 28 inches, full tiller, full draw in the end. And of course, she is very green. We have a lot of work left to do with this bow, including a new string, or its own dedicated string, doing some refinement work here in the grip so that we can start shooting her, and getting all of the peaking and tweaking done, and getting it, well, shot in, right? So guys, that's going to be the content of next week's video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this week, and I will see you next.